Hey guys, how's it going? I'm back here with another video, and today I decided to bring this tutorial where I'm going to go over how to create Google authentication for your React application using the Firebase service. And this is basically what we're going to be building over here. As you can see, I can click on this button, a pop-up will appear. I can log in with one of my accounts, and you should see that I actually authenticated. If I refresh, my data shows the data of the person who logged in. So it shows like the name of the person, the email, and the profile pic. Obviously, the important part is knowing that you authenticated with Google and you can get information about the user based on that, so you can implement that inside of your project. So if you're interested in seeing the code, all the code will be in the description, and yeah, that's basically it. Before we get into the video, if you guys could leave a like and subscribe, I would massively appreciate it because it would help push my videos to more people. You guys' support has been amazing lately, and I'm just thankful for everything. So if you could just leave a like and subscribe, I'll be very happy. So with that in mind, let's get into the tutorial. Okay everyone, so in order to start out building your project, I actually already have a simple React application already set up. I basically didn't do anything. All I did was I ran create React app, then I basically just deleted 3 of the files that were here, which comes with create React app, which were the index.css file, the setup test file, and also the logo that comes with the create React app command. And now these are the only files that I have left. And I basically just deleted everything that was inside of the app.js file and just left with this text saying hello world. So right now our project basically just says hello world. I'm going to zoom in a bit on this so you guys can see it better. But what we are going to do is we're going to be using our Firebase account over here to create a new project that will allow us to integrate Google authentication into our project. So the way we do this is we'll click on add project. And you can just give a name for a project in Firebase. If you're not familiar with Firebase, I'm gonna leave a link in the description for the website. You just sign up with your Google account, and you'll probably be in this step over here. And then you can just click on Add Project. Now, to create a project, you just put a name. I'm gonna name it Google Auth, but you can call it whatever you want. And I'm gonna click on Continue. Then you have all of this stuff over here. I'm just gonna remove this thing over here called Google Analytics because I really don't care about it. But you can put it whatever if you want it or not. It doesn't really matter for our use case. Then I'm gonna click on Create Project, and it will start creating our project. One thing we need to do before it creates is we need to install a package into our React application. So I'm gonna open up my terminal over here, and I'm gonna open a new terminal so that because this one is already running React, as you can see, I already ran yarn start, and I'm gonna install the package called Firebase. Now, if you're using npm, you can run npm install. I'm gonna use yarn, so I'm gonna say yarn add, then yarn add Firebase, and I'll just press enter, and it should start installing the Firebase project package inside of our project. Now, hopefully this is already done, and you can see our project is ready. I'll click on continue, and it will open up the website. And the first thing we need to do is we need to go to project settings by clicking on this little icon over here, then project settings. And then what we want is we want to see what code do we need to write to make the connection between the project we just created into Firebase on the website and our React application. The way you do this is by clicking on this button over here. You'll see that it will ask you to register an app. So we just give it a name. Again, it really doesn't matter, at least for our use case. You can call it whatever you want depending on what project you're building. I'm gonna call it Google Auth again, and then I'm gonna click on register app. You can set up Firebase hosting, but that's for another video. And yeah, I'll just click on register app. Then it should not take a lot, yeah, as you can see. And we now get this over here. Basically, this should be enough to help us connect our frontend, our application, with the project we just created in the website. So I'll just copy all of this, and where we want to paste it is basically we want to create a file in an application in our source folder, and this file is very commonly created as a way to establish the connection. So we can call it something like Firebase, like this, so Firebase.js, and this file will just exist for the purpose of establishing everything related to configuring Firebase. So I'll just paste that thing that we just copied, and I'll delete all the comments because they don't matter. But basically, as you can see, this will contain all of the keys, everything you want that will help you connect to Firebase. Also, there's this thing called initialize app that we are importing from the Firebase library. You'll see a lot of tutorials online just importing this from Firebase. There was an update. This is Firebase 9. So basically, a lot of the things you might see online might not work. And that's why I'm making this few videos. If you're following my channel, I'm making a good amount of videos in Firebase because a lot of people don't have resources necessary to learn the new version of Firebase. So I'm pointing this out so you guys can understand it better. Now, what we use with the initialize app is basically we create this variable called app, which will represent all of our Firebase connection. So what exactly does that mean? Well, for example, if I want to utilize anything from the Firebase platform, and what I mean by anything is you can actually do a lot of different stuff with this. You can host, you can do authentication, which is what we're going to be doing. You can create a database, you can have a real-time database, you can have buckets and storage and everything you want inside of Firebase. So there's many different services we might want to use. And in our case, we're only going to use the authentication service. So I'll click on this over here and click on Get Started. And it'll appear all of this over here, which I'll explain in a second. Basically, there's many ways that Firebase allows you to authenticate, right? The most common one is email and password, which I do have a video on that if you're interested. You can also authenticate with phone numbers, which is really cool. And all of these other providers over here are also valid. It is very common to see on websites something saying like, oh, sign in with Google, sign in with Microsoft, sign in with GitHub if it's related to coding. So that's what we're going to do in this video. I'm going to click on sign in with Google. And if we click on this enable thing over here, it should enable Google authentication. One thing we also need to do is click on the email thing over here and choose which email we want to use. Obviously, I blurred out my email because this isn't the email that I have public, but you just choose the email you want as the support email. And basically what this will do is, if anything happens, this is the email that serves as support. That's pretty self-explanatory. But I'm going to click on save, and this should basically save and enable authentication for our project. As you can see, it says Google authentication is enabled. Now, with this done, what we need to do is we need to come to Visual Studio Code, and we need to start by importing some stuff from another Firebase service. So as I mentioned, there's many services, and the way you import stuff from different services is by following the following format. Basically, if we're trying to import from the authentication service, we just say import from Firebase/auth. And everything related to authentication will exist inside of this path over here. So what we want to get from the Firebase Auth service is something called getAuth. And this will allow us to create a variable called auth into our project. And what we say is we say const auth is equal to getAuth and pass the app. And this over here will represent everything related to the user currently authenticated in Firebase inside of your project. So what does that mean? Well, you can technically use this to get who is currently authenticated, like information about who is currently authenticated, just to figure out which user is currently authenticated based on what Firebase is saying. So this will be very useful for us, and we definitely need to access this in different files. So since we want to access this in different files, we say export because we might want to import this in a future file or component that we're going to create. Now what we want to do is we want to write the logic that will establish that that we're going to be using Gmail authentication. So there's different things you got to do if you're for the different methods of authentication you want to use. For Gmail, it is very simple. The first thing we need to do is we need to create something called provider or Google or Gmail provider, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to call it provider, and set it equal to new. And we want to import this class from the authentication service called Google Auth Provider, as you can see over here. And we're going to say new Google Auth Provider. And this variable, again, will represent everything related to Google authentication. Then we're going to come over here and we're basically going to create a function that will represent the sign-in for Google. So whenever we want to sign in or use this function, we're going to import it from this file. So I'm going to create this function called sign in with Google. And the function will be pretty simple. What we're going to include inside of here is a method that appears from the Auth service called sign in with popup. Now, what does this method mean? Well, when you usually sign in with Google, there's different ways you can do this. You can open the Google sign in thing as a pop-up. You can be redirected to the website, to Google. There's many things you can do. Technically, in my opinion, signing in with a pop-up is better because it doesn't remove the user from your website, which is kind of like, why would you want them to be redirected to another website just to sign in when you can just have a little pop-up appearing? So keeping that in mind, Firebase created different functions that will allow you to customize it based on what you prefer. And I prefer signing in with pop-up, so I will use this function. So with this, I'll just come over here and I'll say sign in with pop-up. Then I'll pass first the auth variable that we created, and then the provider variable. And what I can do is this will return, this by itself will actually work. This will, when we call this function, it will automatically appear the pop-up and ask us to sign in. Now, what happens is we won't be doing anything with that. And in order to deal with, for example, what email the person used or information about the user based on their based on who signed in, we can do that by clicking on .then and then grabbing a variable called results and creating a function that will return what happens after the user authenticates. So this over here returns a promise, and we can handle that promise by accessing the result variable over here. And if there's also any errors while signing in, for example, the user doesn't sign in, we can catch the errors by saying catch, then error. And for now, what we're going to do is we're just going to alert a message saying error. Yeah, actually, let's just console log the error. Console log error. Now, what do we want to do with the result? Well, for now, let's just console log the result so you guys can see what information we can get from the user just based on Gmail authentication. And that will be good because it will give you an idea of what websites know about you when you sign in with Google. So for now, let's just leave it like this, and let's export this function so that we can use it as a on-click in buttons throughout our website. So for now, what we just want to do is we just want to create a button over here, which will say something like sign in with Google, like this. And you'll see that the button should appear in the screen. If I come over here into our React app, it says sign in with Google, but when I click on it, nothing happens. Now let's import from the file we just recreated, so /Firebase. Let's import the function we created called sign in with Google. If we pass this function as the on click to the button, we should see that if I click on the button, it will appear a little pop-up over here, ask us to sign in. I'll click on my email and it should authenticate, and we don't have any confirmation obviously because we didn't tell the website to do anything related to anything after you authenticate. But what we do see is that when we console log, it console logs something saying user credential. And this basically, I really don't want to show everything, but it includes a lot of information about the user. For example, the user's email, the user's name, stuff like their profile pic, all that kind of stuff you can see through this. Again, I don't want to show my information, so I'm not going to be looking at this object over here, but please do take a look at everything you can do with this information so that you can tailor your project directed towards that. What I will show you guys is how we can use that to display the picture of who signed in and also their name. So if you take a look at the object, again, I don't want to show the object, but if we take a look at that, this result object over here includes a lot of fields, including the following. The results object contains a property called user, which contains 3 different properties: email, display name, and photo URL. So those are the 3 things that we want from this function. So what I can do is, for example, I can create a variable called name is equal to result dot user dot display name. And now we get the name of the user who logged in. We can then see the email by saying const email is equal to result dot email dot, actually not dot email, dot user dot email, and we get the email. And finally, I want the picture, so I'll say profile pic is equal to result dot user dot photo URL. And these are the 3 informations we want. And how will we access this? Well, we need to think about it this way. We want to access this somewhere in our website, right? A good way to do it is, in our case over here, we're only using this function once. So I want to point out, if you're going to use this function multiple times inside of your website, I wouldn't write the logic for the dot then inside of here. I would actually just create a function like this. Like I would create the same function, but instead of writing like sign up with pop-up and then handling the promise, I'll just give this like this and tell the user to, or like I would myself handle the dot then and the dot catch on whichever file I'm using this. However, since this will be only used one time in my project, I'll keep it like this. And the way I want to store this information when the user logs in is by using the local storage. So I'll say something like local storage dot set item. Then I'll set an item called name and give it a value of name. Then I'll do the same thing for the email and the profile pic. What I'm doing here, and for those who don't know this, the local storage is just a kind of a local database or a local place you can store information on your browser. And we're just storing this information about the user so that we remember, or the browser remembers who is logged in. I'll put also the email, and I'll also put the profile pic. And again, I'll just put those information over here. Now, when the user logs in, you should see that, and I'll open this up so you guys can see. If I go to my application, the local storage currently doesn't have anything, as you can see over here. But if I click on sign in with Google, then I sign in with my account over here. You should see that the 3 pieces of information that we told to store in the local storage now appears over here. And what we can do with them, well, I can come to my app.js over here, and I can do something like h1 and just display that information like local storage.getItem. I'll get the name. Then I'll do the same for the email, like email. Then I'll do the same for the picture. For the picture is a bit different. I'll just say image, then pass the src and make it equal to local storage.getItem image. I think I called it image, right? No, I called it profile pic. And now if I save this, I'll just come over here and you can see that the information appears in our website. It says my name, my email, and my profile page, because those are the 3 things I logged in with. This can work with multiple accounts. If you're trying to sign in, I can come over here, log in with this one, and you should see that it should, if I refresh my page, display the new information. Well, why do I need to refresh my page? Because we're storing it in the local storage, but you can handle what happens when you log in on your own time. The purpose of this video was just to show how to authenticate with Google, and as you can see, we can do it perfectly. Also, just as a bonus, I found this code, that some CSS that basically makes the button look like this. which I find really cool. When I click on it, you can see I can still log in as before. So if you're interested in seeing the code, I'm going to leave out the link for the code in the description. Give it credit to the person who wrote this, which I find it really cool. So yeah, if you're interested, just look in the description and it will basically give you all the CSS to make it look like this. Now, this was basically it. I really hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like down below and comment what you want to see next. Subscribe because I'm posting 2 times a week, and I would massively appreciate if you guys could support the channel. And yeah, that's basically it. Really hope you guys enjoyed it, and I see you guys next time.